The Yankees snapped their three-game losing streak, and guess who delivered the game-winning hit?
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm one of your hosts, Stacey Gotsoulias. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. Join your friends and download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. And with me as always, and this time from Vegas, my co-host Brian McKeon. How was your flight? Was everything okay?
Flight went great. Now I'm in sunny Nevada, and I cannot wait. It's like 90 degrees outside. It's just perfect compared to you lonesome New Yorkers who have to wait like two months to get this weather back.
That is not perfect for me. 90 is a nightmare. 90 is a nightmare. Ugh. Before we get started with the show, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on whichever platform you're listening to it on. And you can subscribe to our videos on YouTube. You can like our videos, hit the bell so you know when they go up. It's a fun time. Coming up on today's show, we're going to break down the Yankees' biggest struggles so far this season. We're going to look ahead to the Rays series this weekend. But first, they salvage a win. They didn't get swept in Canada. Hallelujah.
I think it's important that the win came from Aaron Judge too, right? Like it came off of his bat. We went on 1 for 13 in the series against Toronto, but the one hit was the biggest hit of the series for the Yankees. Getting the win's important. Like Michael Kay said at the end of the broadcast, it makes the flight a lot more bearable from Toronto back to New York for sure. At the same time, though, this was not a good series, and it wound up being a real damper of a road trip after sweeping a doubleheader to start.
Right.
Especially with coming back in a really tough series against Tampa at home over the weekend. That's not a cakewalk. Tampa's never a cakewalk for you. So while the win is good, we did tease, and I do want to get into the second segment. We have to go over the key struggles. And I put together the 3 things that I think are the Yankees' biggest problems. And we're going to go over that because it needs to be said. These things need to be said. They need to be talked about because it's 2 weeks in now, and they're a little glaring when you compare their numbers to the rest of the league.
Right.
Like you said, Stace, good win. Yes, you still take these, right? You don't throw these away. You don't say, oh, you lost the series. You take the win, good win. But this very well could have been a loss. You scored 5 runs in the last 2 innings. They very well could have lost this game.
Oh, yeah, easily. And it looked like it was heading that way, and thankfully it didn't. Although the funny thing about the flight from Toronto, it's only like an hour and a half. So it's not like when the Yankees were coming back from Seattle after losing in the 95 division series, and the guys were all like, oh man, we ruined this for Don Mattingly. I actually asked David Cohn about that, and he's like, oh no, it was the worst flight of my life. He's like, we were all crying. It was so bad. So at least it's only an hour and a half from Toronto. So let's talk about.
I mean, the flight was brutal. You know what needs to be mentioned. And I don't know if this is where you were going into, but I'm pretty sure it was. Talking of brutality, the umpiring. The umpiring was so unbelievably bad in this entire game. I mean, Judge was complaining late in his last at bat, and he got some brutal calls. You had Schneider get thrown out in the last batter of the game with Vladdy because Vladdy got some. And I'm no Blue Jays fan, but that was some awful.
Oh yeah, both
Vladdy.
Sides were getting them. Mm-hmm.
And Soto. I mean, this is the second episode we've done where Soto's walked like 3 times in one at bat, and the umpire just doesn't call it. I mean, and I'm sorry. Soto's one of those guys that when he's walking down the line, I'm going to take Soto's side. His track record speaks for itself.
Right. I mean, umpires have even said that they kind of know. They're like, yeah, all right. He knows the strike zone, but some of them are just absolutely horrible. But yeah, both sides, awful. I'm surprised more guys didn't get thrown out actually, because it was just.
What annoys baseball fans more is the arrogance and the ego of the umpires, right? It's one thing if the umpires made the call, got the call wrong, tapped their chest and said, I screwed that one up. People will let that go. It's when the umpires have this ego or this arrogance to them and they immediately throw the coach out for complaining, or they immediately, stand there and then shake their head yes at the batter when it's very, very obvious that it was off the plate. I mean, there are some calls on Judge. It's very obvious that it's low in the zone. And he's not. I understood when people were saying the calls of the knees, they're low because those are low calls for most hitters. That's a normal strike zone. But Judge gets strike calls on him below the knees. And that's below the knee. It's way below the knees for most players. So it's one of those things where it's it's gotten to the point with some of these umpires where it's not necessarily just the bad calls. We can get over those things. It's the arrogance that bothers people. It's the arrogance of Angel Hernandez suing the league for not getting better games in the postseason, and still, having the complaining and suing and going all crazy about it when people don't even want him doing spring training games anymore.
No, they wouldn't. I don't think I'd want him to do a T-ball game at this point.
Yeah.
He's horrible.
And we talk about defense, Stacey, but Volpe made the great play at the end of that game. Again, and I wanted to reiterate this point. You still needed 5 runs in the final 2 innings to win this game. That is something that needs to be said. They were beyond close to losing this game and should have lost the game, to be quite honest with you.
This is something that the 2023 team probably wouldn't have had happen. Like both comebacks, like they should. This team shows a lot more fight than 2023 did, and I feel like once things start getting better again, and guys last longer, starters last longer, and they don't have to call the bullpen after only like 5 innings. We'll talk about that. And people start hitting again, it'll be different. This team still feels different. Even with these 3 games in a row that they lost and the 1 win that they got in Toronto, it still feels different offensively to me watching these guys.
It feels different because of Juan Soto, right?
Thank God for Juan Soto.
That factor in your lineup, right? The guy that's going to take the long. I mean, again, the guy that will take the walk there. I feel like last year's team in that Juan Soto at bat, whoever would have been batting second, I mean, it would have been Judge, but it could have been different hitters. They tried Rizzo for a little bit. Regardless, last year, that guy up in Soto's spot in the 9th inning today would have been trying to hit a 9-run home run. He would have been trying to kill the ball and hit it as far as he possibly could. Whereas Soto has no problem taking the walk and passing the baton. You weren't seeing that from the Yankees last year. So that is important to mention. And it's important to realize that stability that he gives in the lineup, because Soto making that play, what it shows the rest of the lineup is that's okay to walk in that spot. It's okay to pass the baton. You don't need to be the hero. And when one guy doesn't feel like he needs to be the hero, it's very easy for your team to start getting into winning practices and winning modes and getting your team, in a winning culture. That's what that builds when a guy is able to take a walk in the top of the 9th there. As opposed to last year when you had guys, I mean, again, last year it would have been you up there trying to hit a 12-run home run. And it wouldn't have happened. You would have struck out and you would have buried your team even more. So those at-bats late in games, that calmness, that presence in the 9th inning is absolutely huge.
I would like to bring up one thing about the Soto walking, because this was something that came up. Was it early this week or last week? Sal Licata from WFAN got really mad that Juan Soto came out and said that he'd be willing to walk in front of Judge. Like, he doesn't need to come out and hit. And he just freaked out over that. And I just thought it was so silly, because Soto knows. Soto is such a good player that I would rather him take a walk than, like, especially if he knows the pitcher and he realizes that maybe I'll take a walk here and not try to swing at the ball. Because, I mean, he is a good hitter, but I would rather him walk in that situation too.
I used to, full transparency, I'm good buddies with Sal. I used to produce for Sal. I worked at him a lot. That's one of the crazier takes he's ever had, and I'd say it to his face. I don't understand. I would pay Juan Soto $50 million a year to walk in that spot. He's one of the greatest players to ever do that. So I have no problem with that, because while Juan Soto can walk in that spot, Juan Soto can also hit a 400-foot home run in that spot.
Sure.
He has everything to his game that you need. Like, he's not a proto, and Judge has a little bit of that, right? And that's one of the things that when people were debating what kind of contract are you going to give Aaron Judge when he was going into his free agency year, right? People factored into the fact that he's not just a power hitter. I know this eggs on Mets fans, but it is true. Aaron Judge is the antithesis of what Pete Alonso is when it comes to being a complete player, right? Mm-hmm. Aaron Judge is an excellent fielder, but take the at-bats. Aaron Judge walks. And people don't realize that. Aaron Judge averages about a 385 on-base percentage in his entire career. Pete Alonso does not do that. And that's the difference in those two players. And that's why I'm more confident in paying Aaron Judge $42 million a year as opposed to I'd be paying Pete Alonso that. And those intangibles are so much further. And Juan Soto, so I put Pete Alonso basically right here, right? Of hitters that he goes up there, hit a lot of home runs, he'll produce for you numbers-wise, but he's not going to walk and he's going to strike out 200 times a year. Then you got guys like Aaron Judge. They're going to strike out, sure, but he's not going to strike out 200 times a year. He's going to put the ball in play. and he's going to walk a lot, right? And then I have guys like Juan Soto, and it's going to go above the screen so you can't even see it, that will walk or hit a triple or hit a ball in the gap or take a hit by pitch or do literally
Like
everything
anything
of the
and
above.
everything. Yep.
Exactly. And that's the point that needs to be hammered home where, and I love Aaron Judge, great player, but when you consider the intangibles that Juan Soto brings to a roster, you don't get that from other players in the league. And that's why I made the point weeks ago, Stacey. He is the modern day Ted Williams. That's what he is. Those are the numbers that he puts up in the modern era. Ted Williams' numbers overall are better, but Ted Williams was facing pitchers who had 230 pitches on their arm in a game late in the game. Juan Soto has Ted Williams-like numbers, and you can't replicate that with any other player in the league. When this offseason comes, again, like you've said before, open checkbook, open the pocketbook, and give him whatever the heck he wants in there.
Yep. Okay, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notifications so you know when our videos go up, reply to the pinned comment in our videos Monday through Thursday. Again, I've been doing that. If you want your questions answered for Fan Mail Friday, join the Insiders Club, the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. The link is in the description. You get text from us. You can text us questions, text us complaints about the Yankees. There's a 14-day free trial. Coming up next, the Yankees have 3 glaring issues this season so far, and one of them I was going to discuss in segment 1, but we're saving it for segment 2. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Life can be unpredictable, and Policy Genius can take away some of the worries of what your family would do if something happened. Policy Genius gives you unbiased advice from a licensed expert support team. They have no incentive to recommend one insurer over the other, so you can trust their guidance. Thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot from customers who found the best fit for their needs with Policy Genius. So check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonmlb or click the link in our description to get free life insurance quotes and see how much you can save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonmlb. And Locked On Yankees is brought to you by my new favorite game, Monopoly Go. We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's the bottom of the 9th. Your team is down to their last strike. It's not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure you or your team can pull out a win. And that's when you dig deep, lift your head up and say to yourself, time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heists, and take as much of my friends' money as I possibly can. That's right. The smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. I stole $406,000 from someone on Monopoly Go today, and I was able to finish building my France board. So I was very excited about that. It's Monopoly like you love, but it's on your phone anytime with a ton of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your friends. You can make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. I do that all the time. It's fun. And you can charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get out there, put your game face on, download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play.
Welcome back to Locked On Yankees. It's Locked On's NFL Mock Draft, live on April 17th at 7 Eastern, streaming on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on Amazon on April 17th at 7 Eastern Time to hear what the local Locked On experts are picking for every NFL franchise, with live reactions from local college football experts and even the fantasy football angle. The Locked On NFL Mock Draft on April 17th at 7 Eastern, streaming live on Locked On Sports Today, 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Don't forget, you can also catch every pitch of the Yankees' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Yankees. Now, big win, Stacey. I'd agree. Fun win today. Good game. Makes the flight a lot easier, even though it's an hour and 18 minutes or whatever it is. There are concerns, though.
Sure.
And there are things that we should discuss, because when you measure the Yankees numbers up against the rest of the league, there are a lot of concerning numbers of where they fall, right? The first one that I wanted to reach, and again, this seems a little counterintuitive right after Judge's game, but I think it still needs to be said.
Sure.
Judge gets the game-winning hit today, and that can be the beautiful deodorant, right? The beautiful perfume. Winning fixes all, right? Not so fast in my book. Judge went 1 for 13 in this series. Now, his one hit was a huge hit, but he still went 1 for 13. This is his lowest average through 19 games since his rookie year. That's a problem because he started off slow. Now, yes, that year he did hit 50 whatever home runs, but he still did struggle at the start to get going until June. He's hitting 182. He's got a 337 on base, and that's the one that concerns me a little more. That's very uncharacteristic of him to have an on base percentage in the 330s. He's usually around the 380s, close to 400 early on in the year. That's a major concern. He's not walking as much. And here's the worst stat of them all. Against the fastball, his average is 188. And Judge is one of the more elite fastball hitters in all of baseball. And the biggest problem with that, if you guys need a reference to what he normally hits against the fastball, it's 325. So that's throughout his entire career. So Judge is a guy who realistically, historically, crushes the fastball, and this year he's not making contact with it. Is that a cause for concern for you? Does that stat give you a little more concern when it comes to what Judge is doing? Or you think it's just a matter of time and he'll figure things out?
I think it's a matter of time and he'll figure things out. I also think he's the type of guy that even if he were still feeling the ab problem, he wouldn't say it.
Mm-hmm. He denied it already. They asked him in the
know.
locker room after the game the other night, and he said they asked him flat out. I think it was Joel Sherman who asked him. Catching
That's
only
not surprising.
Yeah, but because he has no problem saying anything to any player, which is
He's amazing.
Need,
no, but it's
Yeah.
amazing sometimes. He just really like him and wasn't it him and Cashman over the offseason that got into the tussle? Yeah.
Yeah. And he asked him flat out, did getting only 22 spring training at-bats affect your start to the season? And Judge swears up and down no, but I'm going to agree with you in that sense. He's the kind of guy that he would never tell you if he was actually struggling because of it anyway. So
No.
I agree. I don't think it's a cause for concern where you're going to let him sit for a day or anything like remotely that close. What I'm going to say, though, is when does the point – or I guess not what I'm going to say. The question that I'm going to have for you. When does the point in this season hit, Stacey, where you do start to get concerned? Because if he keeps hitting like this, really, you're going to give him that much
Mid-May. Oh yeah,
well,
he deserves a leash. He's allowed. Yeah, if it gets to mid-May and he's still hitting like this, I'll be worried and I'll be thinking that something is up with him because it's uncharacteristic of him. But we're again only about 3 weeks into the season. And there are times when guys have stretches like this in the middle of the season. So maybe he's getting his bad stretch out first, and then he'll be hitting a lot in the summer.
I'm gonna give him till early May. I'm gonna give him till the first week of May. If he's struggling at that point, I'm not gonna say that it's a mechanical problem or something like that. I'm gonna say it's the injury. I'm honestly at that point gonna be convinced that it's the injury that he didn't address. And I think coming into this year where this was a year people were very excited for. This is the year you acquire Juan Soto. He did not want to be out going into this year, especially with the reaction that Garrett Cole wound up what I'm getting for him being out. Judge didn't want to be a part of that narrative where another guy's hurt, because you already had Canely at the start of spring training, and then you had Cole. He didn't want to be a part of that narrative.
But it wouldn't just be, another guy's hurt. It would be, God, Judge is hurt again. Not that all of his injuries are, like Stanton, where he's pulling things. I mean, the toe, that was a freak injury that he had last year. And some of his other injuries, like the diving for the ball against the Angels at the end of what year was that? 2019 or 20, whatever year that was, where he broke the rib, So he's the kind of guy that has like freaky injuries. And I know that was probably in the back of his head going, I can't be injured again. I can't be the one who's, with Cole, it was just a shocking thing because he never gets injured. Yeah, but with Judge, I know that's in the back of his head.
My second concern, and I know you mirror this, starting pitchers not going deep into games. You had it again today with Stroman, who went, 5 1/3? You cannot survive this way. You can't. No. The longest, let me just read to you before I get your opinion on this, because I know that you're very heated on this topic. The longest starts of the year so far, Rodon went 6 once. Stroman went 6 twice, and Cortez had the one game against the Marlins, who, again, not saying much, he went 8 innings. That's a problem. That together is a problem. You need to go deep into games because, as we've reiterated multiple times throughout the show, your bullpen will be fried by mid-June. It will. But heck it, Memorial Day.
Actually, I would say mid-May at this point, if they keep going this way.
Yeah.
It's a month. In a month, they're going to be burned out. It's ridiculous.
And you can't play that way.
Right.
Your team can't play that way. You're not going to survive going that long. Starting pitching will get you so far, but if you're gonna rely on your bullpen this much throughout the entire year, you're gonna have to start calling guys. Guys are gonna start dropping like flies because they're gonna be hurt. Guys are gonna get hurt all the time. And even if guys don't get hurt, this is a problem we've seen with teams the last couple of years too. If this doesn't result in injuries, it's gonna result in problems in October. Because you play in a playoff game and you have a reliever coming out there that's thrown 100 innings this year, that guy's arm is fried by the time October hits. His stuff isn't as crisp. He's not hitting his spots. His velocity's not where it needs to be. That becomes a major problem that you might not necessarily see with an IL stint, but you'll see it in a struggling appearance in a sixth inning in a game in October where you're up 3-2. That'll matter a lot.
Well, it's funny because that also works in how Joe Torre overused certain guys because he trusted them so much. And then by the time they got to the playoffs, their arms were basically falling off and you couldn't rely on them to do anything. So with this one, it's just the starters. I know baseball has changed. I know that people don't necessarily expect starting. Like it's shocking now when pitchers go 7, which is crazy to think about now. But they've built their teams for games like that when a starter only lasts 5 innings, but 1 out of 5. You can't have all the starters only go 5 innings.
Yeah,
this
and
is
they're
really
all doing it.
Yeah, like you're building big or good bullpens for the occasional, the starter couldn't get out of the 5th inning. Let's just bring the guys in, do this. No, you can't do it through the whole rotation. Again, these guys are going to be burnt in a month.
And the last one, I think this is a great point. This is one of the more alarming stats that I actually found in my digging on the airplane. Middle infield fielding has been a major problem. And I know that Volpe made a really nice play to end the game today, but take all that into account. You had another error in the game the night prior. I don't think Gleyber Torres is a bad fielder. I actually think he's underrated because people have been trashing his fielding for a while. What I will say is there are a lot of times where he comes across as a lazy fielder. And those things need to be fixed. You can't field that way in Major League Baseball, especially with the team that they have where they get a lot of ground balls and they're not striking a lot of guys out. You need that. And here's the point. Oakland and Boston are the only 2 teams with more errors per 9 than the Yankees this year. The Yankees are at 0.89 errors per 9 innings. That can rear its ugly head in a really bad spot. It did the other night. It's going to do it more throughout the season. And like you said, when pitchers don't go late into games and your bullpen's fried, they're going to strike out less guys. And more balls going to be put in the field. And clearly the formula against the Yankees this year is put the balls in play because they're going to kick it around. And you can't allow that narrative to keep building.
Yeah, I just feel like Gleyber, he knows this is his walk year. I feel like he's putting a lot of pressure on himself because he's uncharacteristically being bad on both ends of the ball now. And it's like,
at the start of the year, too, the first 2 weeks, he wasn't getting hits, but he was making hard contact. And if you see something like that, he's making solid contact. The ball's not landing where it needs to be. I can live with that. But now he's having bad at bats. Now he's falling into the Gleyber Torres that swings at everything because he's trying to overcorrect the problems that he's had. You guys can reply in the comments too, any glaring issues that you think exist too, because we'll have a fan mail Friday tomorrow. We will get into it and really, because I'm sure there are other glaring issues. These are just the 3 that I came up with that I think are the major ones that I've seen some 3 weeks in. We're going to look forward to the key aspects of the series that they're coming down south, I guess, back to the Bronx to play the Rays this weekend, because another big series, another big divisional matchup. And like we've said constantly, these divisional games, the records don't go away. Okay. These divisional games can become big late in the season when you're fighting for seeding and your records are all going to be close to the same way. So stay tuned for that in the next segment. Spring training is over and baseball season is officially underway, so don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your prize picks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, Take your pick of more or less and add them to your Prize Picks entry today. Get in on the playoff action with basketball and hockey and win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason. Prize Picks is something new, has something for every sports fan, from baseball, basketball, to League of Legends, and everything in between. You could pick LeBron, Shohei Ohtani, Connor McDavid, Artemi Panarin, or Jude Bellingham, all in the same entry. Jude Bellingham, by the way, who advanced himself with Real Madrid in the Champions League. They took out Manchester City just a little bit ago. Prize Picks is the best way to get the action on sports in more than 30 states across the country. That includes California, Texas, and Georgia. Testing my skills on Prize Picks this baseball season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, honestly. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $100 with just a few taps. Quick withdrawals make it easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stats that are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match of up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for a $100 first deposit match.
Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV Channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV Channels app. And remember, you can catch every pitch of the Yankees' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SiriusXM app, search the word Yankees. Previewing the series against the Rays, this is the big one, at home, thankfully, which makes it better because I don't like the slop. OGs know, everydayers know. I cannot stand that ballpark.
Been there twice.
I loathe it every time they play there. It drives me crazy. Like when they hit, like a base hit and the dust comes up from the, looks like old 70s carpet. I can't stand that place.
Brutal.
So I'm happy it's at home.
Brutal.
Game 1 is Clark Schmidt against Tyler Alexander. That's Friday night, hopefully. Let's look for these guys. I know it's not going to be easy against the Rays because the Rays have some guys on that team that can hit the ball. But I'm hoping from Schmidt at least 5. I would like at least 5.
Yeah, he doesn't have the reputation to give you length, though. He really doesn't give length at all. I love Clark Schmidt's stuff, but he does not give them length.
Yeah. Tyler Alexander is 1-0 with a 6.46 ERA. Not that really means anything, but you know,
it's early.
Nestor starts game 2 on the day that they're honoring John Sterling. Nestor.
Yeah.
Don't make it be a disaster.
Gotta show up.
Oh man.
I hope the Yankees hit a lot of home runs that day, and I hope whoever's calling the radio, I believe it'll be Emmanuel Barbari. I hope he gives a little ode to John Sterling in that broadcast. John deserves it. Let's be real. I mean, I hope that day is all Yankees better win, but I hope that day is all about John.
Well, I think they said he's going to be in the booth for like an inning, so I hope that during that half inning, the Yankees hit a couple home runs for him in the booth.
Oh, be beautiful, and let John call it. Let John call those home runs. So then maybe the Stanton blast will not be the last John home run call. You think of that?
Maybe.
Yeah,
that would be great.
It's been broadcast that's going to be his last home run call. Maybe it won't be.
Mm-hmm. Nestor is facing off against Zach Eflin, who is 1-2 with a 4.63 ERA. He's another guy who can turn it around and do well against the Yankees. And in the final game of the series, it's Luis Gil against Aaron Savali. He's good. 2-1 with a 2.74 ERA.
Savali's a guy they don't hit in the regular season, but they hit in October. Remember when he pitched against them in the Bronx and they lit him up? I don't know why. He's one of those guys they can't hit in the regular season, but they can hit in the postseason. It's so strange.
Yeah, and annoying.
Yeah, the Rays, speaking of annoying, that's what they are every year. They come into every year and you think they've gotten worse, and they don't.
I miss the Devil Rays.
Every single year.
I miss the Devil Rays.
Bring them back when they were awful.
Yeah, when they were awful and the Yankees would fire off 13-run innings against them twice in 1 year. Those were the days. Now the Yankees can't do that against these Rays. And it really, I don't understand how they do so well. They have some guys who but for the most part, where are these guys coming from?
Guys you've never heard of.
I always joke that they grow them in a lab somewhere. Like they create them in a lab because it's unbelievable.
Somewhere in
The
Tampa because
pitchers,
no one's there.
yeah, the pitchers are always good. These hitters come out of nowhere. It's like, where are you guys from? I don't get it.
It's always,
crazy.
you know what's crazy too? It's the bullpen relief arms they bring out of nowhere that are throwing 105 miles an hour. The guy you've never heard of that just comes in and he's throwing darts. It makes absolutely no sense. They must have a factory somewhere. Again, it might be in Tampa. There's no one there but old people who are probably oblivious to what's going on. So there's a factory somewhere where they're producing these pitchers. That's what it has to be. Stacey, one more time, don't forget to join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. There's a link in the description below and a 14-day free trial. You get texts from me and Stacey, and you can text us questions, asking. Speaking of that, leave your questions for tomorrow, pinned under the pinned comment for Fan Mail Friday. And if you guys join the Insiders Club, it's a little secret just between me and you. You get top priority to everything that has to do with Locked On Yankees. So remember that you can catch every pitch of the Yankees Home Tap broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Yankees. That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Brian McKeon.
And I'm Stacey Gotsulias. We will see you for Fan Mail Friday.